it's Erica. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my most disappointing books that I read in 2018. Now, this year I read a lot more disappointing books than the previous year. I had about 20 or 21 books that disappointed me this year. These are all of the books that I gave 1 or 2 stars throughout the year, but today I wanted to talk about 8, and these are 8 books that disappointed me the most. The first book I wanted to mention is one that I read recently. I read this one in December, and this is Twisted Fate by Norah Olson. This is a YA contemporary book, but it does have a small mystery aspect to it, but this mystery aspect was so obvious to me. This book follows 2 sisters, named Allie and Sydney, and the fact that they're falling for the same boy. Allie is the good girl in this family. She's smart, and she does what her parents tell her to do. Sydney is supposed to be the bad girl. She makes her own decisions and supposedly is called emo, since she listens to a group called Death Cab Cutie. I didn't like this book very much because it's so obvious from the beginning what the mystery or twist in this book is, and these characters are so cookie cutter and stereotypical and so one-dimensional. They were so washed out, and they didn't really have any interesting personalities or anything interesting about them at all. The boy that the 2 sisters fall for is named Graham. He apparently had something bad happen to him in his previous town, which is why he moved to this new town. Graham didn't really have anything interesting about him other than the fact that he liked computers and photography and was in love with these girls. Like I said, there wasn't really anything interesting about the characters or anything that pulled me into the story. So that's why I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't really worth reading in my opinion. And I've read books similar to this before that have done something like this a lot better. The next book I wanted to mention is After Eden by Helen Douglas. This is the first book in a YA sci-fi duology, and I didn't really like this book at all. The main character wasn't really interesting. I didn't really like her personality, and there wasn't really anything interesting about Ryan, except that he's an alien from another planet. What makes him a character is that he falls in love with Eden way too quickly in this book. There is so much insta-love in this book that it's not even funny, which is why I gave it 2 stars. The main character's friends are also one-dimensional in this book. There wasn't really anything interesting about them either. The plot twist in this book happens with one of these characters, but the plot twist was so convenient. And even though this book does end on a cliffhanger, I wasn't attached to the stories or characters enough to want to continue. The next book I wanted to mention is one that I've mentioned before on this channel, but this is Immortal by Gillian. This is the first book in a YA Paranormal series. It follows this girl named Evie Johnston, who has no choice but to go to this boarding school for troubled teens because her dad is away on business and her grandmother is in a long-term care facility, so she's not able to look after Evie. I also think something happened to Evie's mother in this book. She either is dead or is in some sort of a coma. Evie is an annoying character. I didn't really like her at all in this book, and when she gets to this boarding school, it's obvious that she doesn't want to be there, since she can do nothing but complain about her situation. She also doesn't like the mean girls at this school, which I didn't really like either. I hated the love interest in this book. There's something mysterious about him, but you can easily figure out what's so mysterious about the love interest early on in the story. Also, the relationship that develops between Evie and Sebastian is so insta-love. There was absolutely no development in the relationship whatsoever. Evie feels that she's instantly falling in love with Sebastian only a couple nights after she meets him. There's also this paranormal mystery surrounding the boarding school, which I didn't really like either. Didn't really have any attachment to the main character, the love interest, or any of the side characters in this book. The story and the relationship within it was so much like Twilight, and I absolutely hated Twilight, when I read it. So because of that, I didn't really like the relationship in here, and I ended up giving this book 1 star. It was absolutely not for me at all. Next up, I wanted to mention A Need So Beautiful. Again, this is another YA Paranormal story that I was disappointed by. This is the first book in a duology. It follows a girl named Charlotte, who's human, but she's mysteriously turning into an angel. I didn't really like the character of Charlotte. There was nothing remotely interesting about Charlotte at all. She was just your average female protagonist, and there wasn't really anything that connected me to her. It was the same with Charlotte's best friend. I think her name is Jennifer in this book. She was supposed to be funny, but she didn't really come off as that funny. She was also a one-dimensional character. At the beginning of this book, Charlotte is already in a relationship with a boy. There was a lot of insta-love, and you didn't really get to see how the relationship developed between them, so it was completely insta-love. Insta-love is something that I hate in books, and I hated it in this book as well. There's this other character who's like a doctor, and he's supposed to help Charlotte transition from human to angel, but the way he reacts to Charlotte turning into an angel was just weird. I didn't really like his character. He's also a suspicious character because as the reader, you're wondering what his true purpose is and what he's supposed to do with Charlotte. I only found the twist in this book somewhat interesting, but the rest of the book was just really boring. I didn't really like it at all. I ended up giving this book 2 stars, but I think I should have given it 1 star, since I didn't really like anything about this book at all. Next up, I have Die For Me by Amy Plum. This book follows a girl named Claire, and she falls in love with this guy named Vincent. Claire is an ordinary human. She lives in Paris with her grandparents and her older sister, because her parents died in a car accident years ago. As Claire is exploring Paris, she meets this guy named Vincent. She's instantly in love with him. There's insta-love in this book, which I absolutely hated. Claire finds out that Vincent isn't human, and he's actually part of a group of revenants that tried to rescue people from their deaths. And in this book, revenants have opponents, evildoers, who try to make humans succumb to their deaths in various ways. The world building in this book is somewhat interesting, and it's the one thing in this book that did keep my attention, but the rest of the book wasn't very good. The relationship and development of the story developed so slowly in this book, and nothing was really capturing my attention. Again, there was also a relationship in this book that was a lot like Twilight, and I didn't really care for the romance in this book. Claire wasn't really a strong protagonist, and she just kind of let Vincent and the other people in this book carry her through the story. I didn't really like this aspect of the book at all. It's like Claire's identity or main purpose in life was just to be in a relationship with Vincent. The plot was predictable, and it moved at a slow pace. I ended up giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. Aside from the world building, I didn't really care for any other aspects in this book. The final book that I was disappointed with the most in 2018 is Nightlife by Kittredge. This is the first book in an urban fantasy series, and it follows this woman named Luna Wilder, who is an insuli werewolf, which means she's a werewolf that doesn't belong to a pack. Luna has to help the police solve a string of ritualistic murders that are happening in her city, and Luna might be a target herself. Luna also has a budding relationship with this guy named Dimitri in this book. He is part of a clan of dangerous werewolves, and I didn't really like the love interest or the relationship in this book. Luna lives with her aunt and her younger sister, her Sunny. I didn't really like her personality in this book. She just seemed like a bitchy and angry main character. And the relationship between Luna and Dimitri was insta-love, and the two had a sex scene in this book that just happened randomly. There was also next to no development in the relationship between Luna and Dimitri, so it didn't really make sense for them to have sex randomly in this book. I didn't really like anything about the characters or the story. I ended up reading reviews for the next books in this series, and trust me when I tell you, if you don't like the story in this first book, the story just gets worse from there as the series progresses. I barely remember the story from this book, to be honest with you. That's how much it didn't stay with me. Those are the most disappointing books I read in 2018. If you want to see more videos from me, I'll put some videos up on the screen if you guys want to check those out. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one.